Welcome back. In this chapter we're going to look at proofing and printing a document. After you've pretty much finalized your document, there are some steps you need to carry out prior to printing it. This process is generally referred to as proofing. This was originally an abbreviation of the term proofreading, but it now covers all kinds of activities including spell checking, translation, using multiple languages, and so on. Let's look at some of the facilities that Word 2010 offers us. We're now going to perform one of the most important proofing operations that should be part of your regular routine when you're working with Word 2010. It's the spell check. More specifically, it's called the spelling and grammar check. And in order to perform this on our Enjoying Sydney document, I click on Review, Spelling and Grammar. Because this is a master document with sub-documents, Word asks me if I want to open the sub-documents so that they will be spell checked as well. I say yes. And then it starts the spell check, which is controlled using the spelling and grammar dialog. The first issue that it's flagged, the issues are basically here, is a subject-verb agreement. And where it says here, but with the thunderous waves also providing great surfing sea water, Word thinks that we have a grammatical problem. We've got check grammar marked with that sentence or that end of a sentence. We actually know that we put in a cross-reference there, and although grammatically it may not be correct, the effect is exactly what we want, so we can instruct Word to ignore that rule on this occasion. To get Word to ignore a rule once, we click on Ignore Once. Next, it flags one of the most common problems we're going to come across, which is the spelling error. Here it says not in dictionary. It's identified the word marked in red. Clearly we know what the problem is there. We've misspelt the word opera. It presents some alternative words that might be the word we meant. Opera, the first one, is that one. We just click on change to correct it. There's another option here which is change all. Some people have a tendency to misspell one particular word over and over again. If you think in a particular document you may have misspelt something several times, you can click on change all and it will correct all occurrences of that spelling mistake. I think I've only done that wrong once in this document, so I'm just going to click on change. Not in dictionary again, another spelling mistake. You can see what that one is, misspelling of the word Eastern. Word has only proposed one alternative there, which is in fact the correct one. So again, click on change. Now we have another grammar issue, which typically costs 105 Australian dollars and can have a duration of 3, 6 or 12 months. Word believes there is a problem with number agreement here. We have a singular noun duration and numbers with 3, 6 and 12 in them. So in this case, Word is wrong. That sentence is grammatically quite correct. There are some grammar rules which Word does struggle with, and number agreement is one of them. So I'm going to tell it to ignore that rule. When it's finished checking, it gives me a confirmation information dialog at the end, and I click on OK. My spell check is now complete. Whilst we were running the spelling and grammar check, Word was applying a number of different rules, and we can control the rules that Word applies both in spell checking and grammar checking using Word options. Go to Backstage View, click on Options and click on Proofing. We have a group of options here. This group relates to spell checking in Microsoft Office programs in general, including, for example, Excel. This group applies to Word alone. And then we have some autocorrect options here. Let's start with this group, the Microsoft Office Program General Rules. We can check this checkbox and tell Office in general to ignore words that are all uppercase, so words with only uppercase characters. We can instruct Word to ignore words that contain numbers and so on. We can instruct it to flag cases of what it believes are repeated words. So there's quite a fine level of control there. Within Word, we can ask Word to check our spelling as we type, mark grammar errors as we type, and check grammar with spelling. If I uncheck this box, next time I do a spell check, it will not grammar check as well. So there's quite a few options there. Let's try some of this spelling as you type and grammar errors as you type and see what happens. Let's now see some of those spelling and grammar options in practice. I've created a new document. I'm going to increase the size of the font to make it easier to see what happens as I type. I'm going to type some spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes. We'll start with this one. If I look at the first one, the word is underlined. Clearly there's a spelling mistake there. Word does not automatically correct a capitalized letter like this, a proper name. But if I right click on the word, it offers me some alternatives to correct it, and there is one, opera. Now clearly the word dog isn't misspelt, but clearly Word thinks there's a problem with it, and it is a number agreement, 7 dog. If I right click, it offers me the correction, dogs. Now let's see Word correct a normal word as we type. The word well, I put 3 L's in, it corrected it as 2. Let's try something again. I'm going to misspell the word want. It corrects it automatically. Before we move on to some of the other aspects of proofing, let's look at one or two of the other important aspects of spelling checking and grammar checking. Back into Backstage View, Options, Proofing. In the Microsoft Office spelling section that we looked at before, we have these standard settings. For instance, ignore words in uppercase, ignore words that contain numbers, ignore internet and file addresses. We also have this very important feature here, which is the custom dictionary. When we're spell checking a document, we generally have our custom dictionary enabled, and any words that we add to that which the general word dictionary didn't have before are then checked by Word. If it sees that word again, it doesn't flag it as a problem. Sometimes when we're dealing with a particular niche subject or specialist subject, we may want to add a dictionary with a whole range of unusual terms in it. Well, we can add a dictionary using this facility. We also briefly before looked at the autocorrect options, where for instance we have ways of typing a euro symbol with open round brackets, E, close round brackets, and so on. And there's a range of those special character sequences that we can use, as well as some corrections for standard typing errors. For instance, very common typing error, 2 initial capitals, which Word can automatically correct. We can also ask Word to capitalize the first letters of sentences or capitalize names of days. That's one we saw before. So when you're working on Word documents yourself, don't forget all these options within proofing on the Word options. They can give you a very fine level of control on how Word helps you with your documents.